Okay, good evening. I thought I would include some I Ching with tarot this evening because last week at some point someone asked. They noticed some I Ching coins sitting on the table here, and they asked if I could do some I Ching, and I said yes. So that's what we'll do. The I Ching, the Book of Changes, and the change fiasco that most people want to go through in life, is difficult. And the I Ching is more than 3,000 years old, I think. Chinese wisdom to help with those changes. Everything goes in cycles, and one thing comes to prominence and then it subsides and the next thing comes and takes over, and there are these changes that are mirrored, I suppose, in the book of the I Ching with the hexagrams, the 6 lines, broken lines or solid lines. And then inside a hexagram are also what are known as moving lines. In other words, they're broken or solid yin or yang lines that are tending toward moving toward their opposite. So when you do these I Ching readings with coins or the arrow stalks or whatever you're using, I'll use the coins tonight. Some of the numbers that come up indicate solid yang lines. Others are broken. They indicate broken yin lines. And then some indicate, a solid line that's tending toward breaking open to be a yin, or a open yin line that's tending toward solidifying to be a yang line. And those little moving lines that appear in certain positions of the 6 lines of a hexagram have different meanings to that you. It's sort of like when you do a tarot card reading, and you look at the cards and you go, you say, okay, here's the general meaning of this set of cards, but then you say, but let's draw maybe an extra card as an influencing sort of extra bit of information about, let's say, 3 cards that you started with. Those moving lines in a hexagram for the I Ching are sort of the same idea. They modify and influence the reading a little bit. So I'm going to do an I Ching reading, and I went and I found an old chart I made for the I Ching back in the 90s. I drew this thing. I was just having fun. But what it does is it's a little chart that you can use when you're reading the I Ching, and it has the 8 trigram symbols. So each hexagram, each I Ching reading is made up of 6 lines. And more than that, it's made up of 2 sets of 3. And those sets of 3 individually are called the trigrams or tetragrams, and those are the smaller units of meaning and you stack 2 and you get the full 6-line reading. But so I made a chart that is basically, I'll show it. So it's there on a piece of paper, and along the top there are these little drawings, little symbols like a sun, a little thundercloud with lightning, a raindrop, some mountains, the earth and moon, wind going through trees, fire, and water. And those are the elements associated with the trigram units. So basically what you do is you throw the coins and you come up with the number to make a line, and you end up with 6 lines, and you look to see, okay, the top 3 lines look like which set of 3 lines across the top of my chart. So you find the top 3. Then you look along the vertical axis along the left side, you find the bottom 3 lines, and then where they intersect is the number on the chart of the hexagram in the I Ching book, and you look that number up, and you get your reading. So it just makes it easy. But anyway, and I will draw on that little post-it down at the bottom, I will draw the 6 lines in black ink, easily visible, as we do the I Ching reading. Now, the I Ching it's interesting. Yesterday I did a tarot reading for someone, and we combined it with an I Ching reading. We did both, and it was astonishing how the two worked so well together. It was absolutely unbelievable, but they fit together like hand in glove. And so anyway, that's a good thing. But that, of course, doesn't always happen. The thing you're doing, though, is you're looking for things to inspire and things to ponder and mull over during your day after you do any kind of a reading, really. Something to drift off to sleep thinking about, sort of, oh, what did that tarot reading really imply for me? You know, it's fun. So, I think I will just do a quick little inaugural sort of I Ching reading to kick off this little stream. And it'll be my typical little opening thing where the idea is, let's just think about something this evening to take us into tomorrow. You know, whatever sort of things people are dealing with for a Friday or going into the weekend. It's just nice to have a little reading to think, you know, what should we be most concerned with, let's say. All right. So I'll go over to the tarot camera again, which is going to temporarily be the I Ching camera for the moment. And we'll do this. Okay. So the first thing that happens is you reach over and you get 3 I Ching coins. And the coins have, Chinese symbols on one side and dragons on the other. So what I do is I say the symbols are 2 points, the dragons are 3 points. And then we add them up as we roll. So this is a reading just for going into tomorrow and possibly the weekend. Just something to keep in mind. So we'll just think about that for a minute. So what we end up with there are 2 and 2 is 4. And 3 is 7, which gives us, as we can see here in the chart, 7 is a solid line. So at the bottom of the hexagram, the first line is a solid line, a yang line. Three threes, that's a 9. That's a moving line. That's a solid yang line that has a tendency to break into a broken line. So we draw a solid line with a circle through it. Third line. We're building our hexagram. We have 3 and 3, 6 plus 2 is 8. That gives us a broken yin line. And that is our first trigram, our first set of 3. Let's continue. Let's get the top 3 now. And we have all 2s, so that's 6, which is a moving line as well. That is a broken yin line that has a tendency to change into a solid yang line. So we do a broken line with an X in the middle. And we have 2 and 2 is 4, and 3 is 7. We have another solid yang line. Yin and yang, light, dark, that kind of thing. Receptive, hard, soft, the contrasting forces. Okay, we're doing our final line of the 6, the top line. And we get 3 and 3 is 6, 7, 8. We get a yin, a broken line. That is our reading. Okay, so what we do right now is we disregard how the moving lines have these symbols. We just say this is a solid and this is a broken. And we refer to the chart here. So on the top we have open or broken, solid, broken. Here it is. Broken, solid, broken. That's the rain, the rain symbol up here. On the bottom, we have broken, solid, solid. And that leads us to the bottom one here on the left. Broken, solid, solid. And that's water. So if we match down here, broken, solid, our rain and our water, we have 60. So it turns out to be hexagram 60. Now we go to the book of changes, the book of the I Ching, and we find out what the actual reading is for our entry into the future of tomorrow and the weekend. So we go here and we look. Now I'll tell you more about the book. There are multiple ways to do this. What it is, the name in this particular translation I'm reading for hexagram 60 is limitation. The top trigram, broken, solid, broken, is known as the abysmal, the element being water. The one below, broken, solid, solid, is the joyous lake. I called this water earlier. It's lake. It's a body of water. I believe both these water symbols are rather receptive in nature. All right, let's read what the I Ching says about this 60th hexagram. A lake occupies a limited space. When more water comes into it, it overflows. Therefore, limits must be set for the water. The image shows water below and water above, with the firmament between them as a limit. The Chinese word for limitation really denotes the joints that divide a bamboo stalk. In relation to ordinary life, it means the thrift that sets fixed limits upon expenditures. In relation to the moral sphere, it means the fixed limits that the superior man sets upon his actions, the limits of loyalty and disinterestedness. Now here's what's called the judgment of this hexagram. It's a very simple little statement. Limitation, success. Galling limitation must not be persevered in. In other words, limitations are troublesome, but they are effective. If we live economically in normal times, we are prepared for times of want. To be sparing saves us from humiliation. Limitations are also indispensable in the regulation of world conditions. In nature, there are fixed limits for summer and winter, day and night, and these limits give the year its meaning. In the same way, economy, by setting fixed limits upon expenditures, acts to preserve property and prevent injury to the people. But in limitation, we must observe due measure. If a man should seek to impose galling limitations upon his own nature, it would be injurious. And if he should go too far in imposing limitations on others, they would rebel. Therefore, it is necessary to set limits even upon limitation. Then there's more description of the image, and it says, water over lake, the image of limitation. Thus, the superior man creates number and measure and examines the nature of virtue and correct conduct. So, we're being told to think about doing things in a measured way. Adhere to common sense limits that aren't ridiculously, absurdly strict. That's what it's saying. Don't be annoying about it. Don't be overbearing about it. Don't be too insistent about these limitations, but just try to find a gentle, common sense, regular old, mom and pop sort of logic way of maintaining limits in what you're doing. In other words, just don't go too insane. It's just, and it's probably good advice for many people on a weekend. Now, let's do the moving lines. Here in this second position, we have this, was rolled as a 9 from the coins, and that gave us the solid line with the circle. It means it's a solid yang line trying to sort of switch itself to yin, to broken. So let's see what a 9 in the second place means. It means not going out of the gate and the courtyard brings misfortune. In other words, when the time for action has come, the moment must be quickly seized. Just as water first collects in a lake without flowing out, yet is certain to find an outlet when the lake is full, so it is in the life of man. It is a good thing to hesitate so long as the time for action has not come, but no longer. Once the obstacles to action have been removed, anxious hesitation is a mistake that is bound to bring disaster because one misses one's opportunity. Okay, so it's saying, adhere to limitations, but you've got a condition that wants to sort of change, it's moving, and what it means is there are limitations this weekend, be common sense, but when the time is right to take action, to do something you need to do, don't dawdle around. Don't be afraid to just do it. Okay, now let's go to the other one, which was a 6, a broken yin line that's tending to solidify into a yang line. A 6 in the fourth line position means contented limitation, success. Every limitation has its value, but a limitation that requires persistent effort entails a cost of too much energy. When, however, the limitation is a natural one, as, for example, the limitation by which water flows only downhill, it necessarily leads to success, for then it means a saving of energy.
The energy that otherwise would be consumed in a vain struggle with the object is applied wholly to the benefit of the matter in hand, and success is assured. Okay? So it's simply reaffirming. Even if this switches to a yang line, it still maintains this idea of limitation done correctly, without being extremist about it, leads to success and contentment in all things. It's very much like what the Greeks said about moderation in all things. It's very similar philosophy. So that's our I Ching reading for the weekend. It's telling us to be gently aware of maintaining proper, consistent limits that will lead us to more contentment and success, and, just keep our eyes open for the moment when we actually need to get something done, and not worry too much. Don't be a lazy, lump. There's our I Ching starter. Now, to continue that, I will read a second translation. There are obviously an ancient text like the I Ching. Oh, hello, Tina6974. Hi, I'm very nice to see you. The I Ching goes so far back that it goes back to a very early form of Chinese writing, and they didn't have as many symbols as they do now in that language. And so the translating of it is sometimes not as clear, I think, as one would think. Some of these symbols, the original symbols, can be interpreted. There are multiple interpretations or different shadings of meaning. But anyway, the 60th hexagram, which is what we're looking at, what we got tonight, in this other translation, they call it restricting. So you've got one translation calling it limitation, another one calling it restricting. They're similar ideas, clearly. Restricting. Let's see what they say. So they call it a decision. And here's what they say. Restricting. Prosperous and smooth. Not appropriate to be steadfast in bitter restriction. So it's saying very much the same thing in a few different words. The other one was saying, don't use galling limitation. In other words, don't be an ass about what you're limiting. Don't be so insistent. And this one is saying, don't be too steadfast. Don't be too bitter about it. Be restricting or limiting in a normal, kind of easygoing way. Now, let's read the commentary. I believe Confucius wrote these commentaries. Let's read what he said about this. Restricting. Prosperity and smoothness. The firm and the yielding are equally divided, and the firms obtain the central places. Not appropriate to be steadfast in bitter restriction. Its way leads to the end. Passing the danger with joy, carry out restriction in the proper position, from the central and correct place. His advance is without limitation. When heaven and earth regulate their restriction, then the four seasons complete their functions. When restriction is put into regulation, then resources will not be exhausted and people will not be hurt. The constant recurring motif here is restriction and limitation without excessive, overburdensome limiting. His phrase, when heaven and earth regulate their restriction. You see, it doesn't... balance is what's required. Smoothness of effort. If it takes too much effort, all this restricting, then you're clearly wasting your energy and it doesn't make sense. In other words, restricting is itself an activity, whether it's physical or of mind. And any activity can be overdone. The whole concept of restricting and limiting means you have to be aware of it in all of its aspects. So if you're just focused on restricting and walking around, restrict that beer drinking, restrict that, don't drink too much of that, don't do, and you become a blowhard. That's what this hexagram is warning us against. So enjoy, but not too extreme. It's really simple, actually. And the tarot will give you very similar advice, really. So now, after doing that, let's pull a tarot card. Let's shuffle them up a bit. And let's actively think about tarot having an input on the I Ching. This idea for tomorrow of restricting. The Nine of Wands, the fire, the passion, the urge to live and create, the desire, the demand, the insistence to go out and have fun. I want to go dancing. That fire is in me. I want to jump around and have a great time. I want to go and paint a great painting. I want to write a poem because I fell in love with somebody last week. That is what the wands are all about. And the 9 is the number of perseverance, of keeping it going to the finish. And it can be hard. So if we combine that with what we've learned about limitation and restricting with the I Ching for this weekend, this idea of being careful about, moderating our attempts to sort of keep control of ourselves and put limits around things. It can be anything. Put limits around behavior, around expenditures, or anything. Just the concept of limiting, restricting, or moderating something. Combined with this tarot card that we've pulled in conjunction with the I Ching, which is the 9 of the passion, the fire element, the pushing through, the final, it takes a lot of energy to get into the 9th degree, trying to reach the 10, trying to reach the end of a cycle of development. That 9 is, you're almost at the summit of Mount Everest and you're running out of oxygen, but you have to keep going. You have to find the will and remember what made you start this whole thing in the first place and keep it going. But the 9 also has, it leads. There's a dawning awareness in the 9. There's an opening up of the mind and a spiritual awareness of one's real capabilities, and you've learned an enormous amount, and this 9 is the number that lets you begin to see how that is working for you in what you're doing. So that's also part of the 9. But perseverance, finishing, applying everything you have to something you want to do. Now, that has to be combined with limiting. So what the limiting thing that we're doing with the I Ching has told us is moderate your energy, moderate what you're doing. You can be persevering, you can be absolutely committed to something, but you don't have to go to extremes. You don't have to drive yourself into the ground. You don't have to lose all your sleep over it. Okay, so that's how I combine this I Ching hexagram with the perseverance of the 9 of Wands. Perseverance without going extreme about it. Perseverance in making your limitations. Perseverance in maintaining moderation in what you do. If some people want to say, oh, you know what, I don't want to eat too much. And they have to be persevering in that commitment. They have to get through. Sometimes it's hard to get to a certain stage in a commitment like that. Well, remember, the I Ching here is telling us don't be too hard on ourselves about it. Don't obsess about it. Just get it done. Take an easy. Go, look at a movie or something, or distract yourself by, mopping the floor or something. You know what I mean? Just take a lighter approach in general, and things sometimes you find that it's easier to persevere. All right, so we've done a sort of combined I Ching tarot reading. Now, of course, I can do tarot reading on a moment's notice. If anyone needs a tarot reading, just say so in chat, and I will immediately switch gears and just do the tarot reading. Because I'm very aware that most people that are going to come by this stream are probably going to see tarot and want to do a tarot reading. The I Ching is the I Ching is just really wonderful. But I think most people will want tarot readings. At least for a while anyway. And, maybe we get used to doing these I Ching readings as well. I certainly wouldn't mind. I find them really fascinating. There's a show on, I think it's on Amazon. It's that show, The Man in the High Castle. That's what it is. And it's got some characters, or it's got one character at least in it who I believe has I Ching. He's into the I Ching. Yeah, he makes decisions based on it. I think he's a Japanese character. Yeah, it's a bit because that show is about the Japanese and Germans winning World War II
what would have happened if, and it's sort of a, fantasy sort of a thing, but it's really well done. And this one Japanese government leader makes his decisions and bases a lot of them on what the I Ching readings suggest to him, which is great. It's fun to see something like that on. I love stuff. I actually like seeing tarot in movies also, but there's not much. I've found I search around for tarot movies with characters who do tarot readings and stuff. Very, very few. It's incredible how rare it is. One that springs to mind immediately is probably the first one I ever saw. It was James Bond, Live and Let Die. There's a character played by Jane Seymour, and she is a tarot card reader in that movie, which is pretty interesting. Okay, so now I'm going to do a tarot reading. I'm going to move the I Ching chart aside. Okay. And I'm going to do a reading. This one this is going to be everybody's favorite subject where tarot is concerned. It's going to be the heart. It's going to be relationship. Just a general sort of little advisor that you might see, in a newspaper in the old days, like advice for Fridays, romantic couples, that kind of thing. It's just might as well. Most people like tarot for this kind of reading. Okay. Six of Swords reversed. The six is pleasure, is having fun and thinking things through and sharing ideas and having a blast sharing them. But it's reversed. It's a little held up. Not having quite as much fun, perhaps, recently. Maybe it's been a hard week. Maybe it's been a lot of thinking going on and not really being able to solve things completely. Maybe hard time expressing ideas to people. People aren't listening. They're distracted. They're doing other things. People aren't responding to email, that kind of thing. Can be a little tough to break through and get the ideas rolling. So there's just maybe a little lack of. So we're talking about relationships here. So maybe there's some lack of conversation going on. So the idea is there's communication. This is the big one with relationships. You always hear this in every single movie about a relationship. Communication. Are you listening? All that kind of stuff. This is the reversal of the six says, well, pay attention to lack of communication. People are misunderstanding each other, perhaps. So it puts a damper on having fun and enjoying the relationship.
But at the heart of everything here, we've got this, 9 again. This, hey, it's okay. You'll get through this. You'll open up and talk at some point, because look, you've got this real full heart, a whole lot of feeling behind a relationship here. And this is just general advice for lots of people, that we're doing this reading for. The heart is, full and leading toward new developments, doing new things together, enjoying new aspects of each other. And sure, it takes work. It's the 9, again, that persevering number. But in the realm of the heart, it just means really persevere in following your heart. Keep your eye on what it is about this relationship that makes you feel so good, and stick with it at all costs. That's what the 9 is telling you. And then over here, we have other influences coming in, and it's the 8 of Wands, and it's also reversed, like the 6 over here. But this is the Wands. This is the passion. This is the drive. And the 8 is a sort of real clear ability to apply that force of nature in yourself within this relationship. This real ability to sort of, let your passions roll and express them beautifully, perfectly. But this is reversed, so there's some problems here with expressing. So what the advice here is saying, there's some communication holdups, there's some hesitations here with the sort of more passionate level of a relationship, desire, some holdups here perhaps, a little hesitation. But this is the central figure here. And it's the 9. I mean, stick with your heart. Just remember that. All these will work themselves through, because, if you just remember this weekend, you've got it, basically. Just look at the other person and remember that 9 of all those cups, and, the blooms, the leaves growing out of them. These are ready to sort of lead to a final understanding of something, a better understanding of something emotionally, and then you'll be able to move to that next stage in a relationship, which comes after the next card, the 10. So just keep that in mind, all that overflowing, and stick with it all the way through, and keep focusing on the affection, the feeling for the other person. So, these readings are they're just, and also those were all number cards. Number cards are changeable. There's a lot of variation of the number card sort of energy that they're daily. Basically, they're not hugely permanent factors. They're the ups and downs of daily life, basically. It's what you have there. So there have been a couple themes here tonight: the I Ching and the Tarot. Sort of, we look at them kind of in a reinforcing each other way, where the I Ching is suggesting reasonable limitations without being ridiculous about them. Prepare to take action if the moment arises and it's sensible to do so, in whatever
area. Actions might need to be taken. Could mean going to the grocery store to get stuff that is needed. And then the other thing is the relationship reading, which is saying, sure, there are slowdowns with communication. There are some things we've been ignoring, we haven't expressed properly. There are some issue, we're not, maybe we haven't expressed ourselves verbally, but we also, when was the last time, I held someone's hand? That's what that card on the right, the upside down 8 of the wands. But the middle card with the 9 of cups saying, okay, but that's the central thing you want to just remember here is this full heart you have, this relationship that has this full feeling and what we know we share, and that's the focus. Yes, Angie Babe 12, you can get a reading. All you have to do is type in your question, and I'll jump right on that. So just let me know. I'm thirsty anyway. I have to drink this cherry sparkling water. Arrow CO2, hi. Oh yeah, okay. So so join the queue. What you do is you type !, join, without any spaces. Okay, so I see Arrow CO2. So I told Arrow CO2, I told Angie Babe 12 I was going to read. Okay, Angie Babe, hang on a second. Now that the queue has some entries, let me take the queue in order because of what the computer does. I have to kind of do it that way. So okay, Arrow, you go ahead and ask, and then Angie Babe, I'll get to you next. Yes, Unity. I got the join bot working. Yeah. And okay, so Arrow soulmate. What do you mean exactly by soulmate? What are you sort of curious about? Are you wondering if a certain person is that? Is that what the idea is? That you know someone and you're wondering if they possibly might be. I understand. Okay. All right. So, soulmate has a lot to do with whether or not two people sort of regard each other as, sort of magically things just kind of fit together and click somehow. You're talking and you share stories and you share past and stuff, and you realize that all these experiences kind of and various outlooks kind of work together, right? So So let's see. Let's think about soulmate and the other person So you need to concentrate on that while I'm doing this, while you're watching the screen, while you're watching these cards. You think about what's going on, what you've talked about with this other person. Okay. Right at the outset, 3 wands, passion, energy, fire. This is the drive. This is what makes you want to be in the same room with someone. And the 3 is the moment of acting. This is where you go, aha, this is the time, go for it. So, this is a big push to move forward, to express, to seize that energy, that fire that you're feeling about another person. The 3 is the number of putting that into action, not just thinking about it, not dreaming about it, but actually, pick up the phone and say, hey, it's time for whatever. It's time to go grab a hot chocolate. It's an active symbol. It means move in the direction that your energy is telling you to go. Now this holds, if you're wondering about soulmate, this holds for both people. This is suggesting. Now here's the thing though. These are number cards, all of them. So these are in the immediate next few days sort of sense. We're not seeing huge, massive driving forces here. We're seeing, this is something that needs to be considered over the next 3 or 4 days to take some kind of step. Now here you've got a reversed 2 of wands. This coupling, the 2 is always a coupling, a gathering of force. We've got here action, but we've got here unification being a little, there's some doubt, there's some equivocating going on here about deciding whether or not, how much you're going to share. We're talking about soulmates here, so perhaps this is the question. This is the wondering. Is this person a soulmate? Are there doubts, perhaps, that are somehow holding this action back from happening because the gathering of the energy to do that between 2 people, to form that coupling, isn't quite ready yet. There's a little bit of hesitation there. That's why it's reversed. Now here's the mind at work. The swords. The 7. And the 7 is that odd spiritual growth number, but that idea of taking what you know about someone, what their beliefs are versus your beliefs, and using those to benefit each other. There's a little bit of doubt going on there. Do the thoughts match up? And the 7 involves becoming aware of how your own mind works
and thinking about how that influences your situation, and then applying that understanding in the world to try and improve things. And what this is saying, the reason it's reversed is it's basically saying there is hesitation here. But because of this 3 here, which is saying, look, this energy to move forward, to take some concrete action, really is what's required. And so paying attention to that will have an influence on this. The mind may be getting in the way. The thinking about how you feel, what you think about this or that, or how things fit together, how is this going to work, whatever, could be restricting the coming together in order to follow the advice of the 3, which means take the step. And only then will you see. Okay, Angie Babe 12. Angie Babe 12. Go ahead. Haha, okay, let's do it. Future love life looking like. Okay. I mean, the future goes on quite a long while for many people, so it can, the future could be like future a month from now, future like 2 months from now. It can have all kinds of different future sort of. But what we'll talk about is, what is really the most applicable to anyone, really. Anyone thinking about the future in something like this really is thinking basically up to the next person. The person, what's going to happen. All right. Let's see. Think about it on your end. There's that card again. Okay. Well, what we have is really sticking to your heart. Really following. You know what you want. You know what your heart is telling you. And you're going to just stick with it. You're going to concentrate on following what it's telling you. You're going to use that word, persevere. You're going to keep going, and you're not going to settle for something that doesn't really make you happy. And as this moves in, we have the Fool, which is a big one here, reversed. And what it's saying here is the Fool is the guy or the woman who walks out and takes big risks and doesn't worry and just sort of goes out onto the road, goes along on a new adventure, embarks on some big project without worrying about the little dog nipping at his heels there. You know, the little dog going, wait, there's a cliff over there, you might fall off. He's just, the fool just kind of goes, whatever, stop worrying so much. Well, this is reverse, which is saying, okay, so maybe maybe there isn't quite enough of that spirit going on. Just remember, it's just basically, when it's reversed, it's saying, look, make sure you don't forget this. Sometimes you have to just sort of, enjoy things a little bit and let them proceed and kind of see where the road takes you. That sense. And don't worry too much. Be reasonable, of course, just like the I Ching told us earlier. Do things in a reasonable, moderated way. But keep following that full heart through, because it's going to lead you to the culmination, to the final stage of this development process and into the next thing. If you stick to what you really love, you'll know who makes you feel this way. These 9 cups of heart juice. Now, over here is this 8 of swords. This is the mind again. This is the mind having its say and kind of shutting things down a little bit. This 9, this 8 of swords is the ability to act swiftly and decisively and put your theories into practice. Put all your skills and knowledge to work swiftly and get results. It's like the perfect application of your mental energy. It's reversed here. So there's some hold up there. There's like some doubt and some worry about maybe where things are going to go. And so this worry, this mental hesitation to sort of perhaps to make decisions that might seem a little foolhardy, because this guy's restricted over here. He's not quite willing to take that many risks. I mean, we're not talking about absurd risks here. We're talking about those normal risks of the heart. You take a risk of the heart, sometimes you get a little burned. It happens to everybody. But you have to have that fool's capacity to not worry too much about that. So the fool needs to kind of be let out of the front yard and go down the street and see where things lead. And then these mental blocks will sort of drop away, because this, again, is the driving energy, the full heart. Extescalante. You're welcome, Angie Babe 12. XD Escalante, go ahead and type in your... Okay, could you have a twin flame future love life twin flame future love life reading? Okay, so you're basically asking for a similar... what does your future love life look like? Am I getting that right? I guess XD Escalante, I'm not sure what you mean by twin flame.
Okay, what does your future love life look like? Okay. I think we can do that. Okay. XD Escalante. You ponder on your side of the tarot camera. You ponder your question. Five is unsettling. It's something new pops in, and it pushes out the boundaries. It makes things change quickly. The Five of Pentacles, coins. This is the physical realm. Body. So the new physically is reversed. The new, there might be a little hesitation to experience the new, to allow it to come in and unsettle the status quo. You know, you want to maybe, well, you know how when you meet someone new and every moment when you're next to them and if your hand brushes against theirs by accident and you kind of go, oh my God, what the heck is going on? That kind of thing. That thing, it causes a new vibration in the world and it unsettles your assumptions. That has to be paid attention to. Be aware. Don't ignore it. That's why this is reversed. It's saying, hey, don't ignore those. If those are there, give them their due because those things are real. Now, there's something here. Something needs to be learned. Someone has advice. There is advice. There is learning to do. There are wise people giving you something. Then this is a big card. This is a major arcana card. This is like a recurring element. This is something that happens a lot and it has to be sort of thought about. There's a hesitation here to pay attention to the new, the physical new, and its importance and what it does to you. Here, there's a figure that has something to offer that can be learned,
There's wisdom to be acknowledged somewhere. Now, this is not reverse. This is right side up. There's nothing wrong here. This is simply saying that this is coming. This doesn't necessarily have to be a person that shows up to give a guiding hand, but it often does. But it can also simply mean that one applies one's energy to trying to figure out one's own problems. What's holding me up? Or you're talking to someone, perhaps, and there's developments that start to happen that free you up slowly. This is a teacher card. The Pope, it's called the Hierophant sometimes, the priest. He's a teacher, and he blesses people. You see those fingers? Benediction. He basically teaches, and he adheres to tradition. He has tradition behind him. He has learning behind him. He has, scripture of one kind or another behind him, whatever it applies to you, perhaps. But he's able to communicate to people, and they pay attention to him, or they try to. They should anyway. They try to learn from him, and he grants them some kind of peace, some kind of new understanding about themselves and their place in the world with these two fingers. He can, like this. It's like. So pay attention to whatever this force represents for you, this teaching wisdom card. Now over here, the mind again showing up. Big thing tonight in these readings. The ace. Intelligence. Lots of ideas. And it's basically, I think what's happening here is there's a hesitation to experience the new physically. And over here, there are ideas that may be not, they're either sort of maybe dwelling on the same idea over and over again and not moving forward, stuck a little bit in a cycle of thinking about relationships that maybe gets a little repetitive, whereas the ace should be a big unlimited potential and a big, like, saying, hey, I'm ready to burst out with all these great new ideas. But if it's reversed, there's a hesitation to do that. So it could be like stuck in a rut, in a mental rut, which leads me back to this guy, which again, the center is saying, break through this problem, break through repetitive thinking by seeking new knowledge, new points of view, wisdom. And don't ever forget the physical aspects of relationships and what happens early on when the comfort of the four is broken apart by something new that pops in. And you're like, whoa, what is that? Pay attention to it. Don't ignore it. So I would say the future holds self-understanding, looking at yourself and looking at how you operate in this area, thinking that through carefully, and maybe seeking advice, which we all do at one time or another. I mean, hell, we go to movies and we talk to our best friend about what's driving us crazy about someone, that we're getting into a relationship with. And often we get astonishingly good advice from really good friends.
All right, Gabby 17222. You are next. General love reading. Okay, I think it's pretty similar to the what's sort of what to think about coming up. Yes, I'm gonna do that. All right, Abby 1222. You think about that whole subject matter wherever you happen to be right now. Basically, the idea is get into the zone, meditate upon it. I mean, meditate upon it just as if you were sitting in a little temple with candles lit around. You're sitting on a comfortable pillow and you're meditating, and you can just hear like streams flowing underneath the floorboards, that kind of thing. Tarot is very good for calm meditation, actually. There's a card showing itself. And there's one. All right. King. Coins. Physical. Earth. The body. Money. We're talking about love life here. It's, so basically what we're seeing here is control, skill, comfort, physical comfort, ability to express oneself. Saying, look for this, keep yourself, this is there. In other words, this is something that's sort of inherent, a part of you, a part also of what you may be looking for. This kind of calm, serene, capable, relaxed authority. In other words, success. It can be success in working, but in this case, it probably is leaning towards success in a physical sense, the body, an ability to express oneself physically. It's a key. The Eight of Swords. The perfectly expressed thought. The ability to put your thinking out there, to let people know what's going on in your head very clearly, to cut right through all the nonsense and express things beautifully.
And that creates real change. That's what the 8 of the swords is going after. So you have an ability, and you insist on ability, to really get things talked out. Get everything out on the cards on the table like they are now. You get their cards out on the table. That's what you're insisting on. And that can only come from this kind of sense of security. You've got this security in the physical realm. Okay? Now, what you're insisting on, and you need to express ideas as well. Now, this isn't as significant an issue. It's a number card, but it means over the short haul, express these ideas clearly so that people know what it is you want. The Chariot. This is deep-seated. This is a big one. This is the commanding active sense. This is the ability to take charge and go out and get things done, get them moving, get the show on the road, is what the Chariot is doing. It's reverse. So someone, perhaps, there is internal and external for these. Internal viewpoint is that you are perhaps not willing to take a big step. You run up against some doubt. The other way to look at it is you run into someone, you're dealing with someone who is not willing to take charge. You know, oftentimes people are dating someone and they just sometimes complain, you know, that person just never takes charge when they should. and you know, that can be a problem. So this is saying there is something to think about there. But with these tools, this ability to express and get everything out on the table, you know, that's a requirement. That's something to do. And this sort of real confidence in the physical realm, you know, you're confident about, you know, how you are in the world, how you look, how you are perceived, how you make your living, and how you express yourself physically with any other person. That's, you basically got it all handled. And kind of, or if you feel like at times you don't, just be aware that this is something, this is a powerful thing that you can consider, you can mull over, you can ponder, you can meditate on. Getting that feeling of calmness and secure confidence in that area. Express it. To break through these sort of really difficult, hesitant, this inability to take charge at the right moment and move things forward, you know. Depends on what level a relationship is on. You know, a relationship can be simple, like initial dating, like who takes charge in making the plans to go to the right restaurant? Why didn't you make reservations? This person's not willing to just pick up the phone and make reservations. They leave everything to the last minute. Oh, and they tell me to decide where to go. That's what this card is about, you know. So that happens. Just, if it does, then fall back on the 8 of Swords, which means just put it all out on the table and say, hey man, what's the holdup? Why are you being so flaky? So those things are little practical things to think about for anyone in the future of a love life. Unity, you're next. You're welcome, Gabby17222.
I get to read for Unity. I knew it. What? Wait, you have to cheat? Hold on. I have two questions. One for you and one. Okay, fine. Ask. Two questions. You sure it's not three? Maybe it's three. Did you ever get around to No, I didn't. Not yet. Not yet. I'm I've had a really busy 2 weeks with work. The card for it would be the tower, but not that. It's just next one for the card. But I'm gonna get it. Okay, so the card. Let me see what you're saying here. Okay, so I'm going to read this. So I've been enjoying my tarot study so far. It's all very fascinating. However, it has been going a little bit slower than I would like. On top of that, I have recently become interested in another topic I want to start dipping my toes into, Carl Jung. Hell of a good topic. What advice can the cards give me on how to best approach diving into two different and seemingly deep topics while still giving both the respect they deserve? Huh. Well, first thing off the top of my head, without even a tarot reading, is I'll just say, I have always naturally associated Jung with tarot anyway, and I think a lot of people do. He said almost nothing on the tarot. There's a book written by a woman about the tarot from what I think she was a student of Jung, but she wrote about what she perceived his viewpoint on the tarot would be. She was surmising. But it's her book on the tarot, but from a Jungian perspective, let's put it that way. But regardless, because Jung worked with archetypal things, with deep-seated images, yes, I do know the name of the book. I'll grab it in a second. But because he dealt with archetypal things, he is a naturally good fit for the tarot. So you can study tarot and read Jung and kind of see similarities. So hold on. There's the book that I have to check. Hold on. Okay. The book is called Jung and Tarot, An Archetypal Journey. And the author is Sally Nichols. And it's Sallie Nichols. So it's Sally Nichols. Yeah, so but I'll do the readings also. So let's do 3 cards about that subject in general. How do you combine, let's say, interest in Jung with interest in tarot? I think that's sort of a positive. We'll ignore reversals. Reversals don't have anything to contribute here because we're just looking for, the sort of ideas to think about for doing that, I think.
Okay. Well, there you go. There's this fool again. And what that is, that's very clear. What that's saying is, hey man, don't worry about mixing, oil and vinegar. Just do it. It's like, enjoy it. Just, and in fact, this is archetypal image. This is one of the major. So this is probably a component that's there already. In fact, I can kind of tell it's there because, whenever you're around, you seem to be very probing, and sort of your interests are kind of, you follow your interests. You seem to follow them. And this is like knowledge I have already looking at this reading. So I can see that this sort of idea of embarking on the journey, the path, is enthusiastic, and that's just probably, I can think it's a relatively safe assumption from the little I know about you, Unity, is that you have that capacity. And that's all this is doing, is pointing at that, saying, hey, that's what you need. That's how you do this kind of thing. You don't necessarily have to worry about whether things match up perfectly. Those little issues of matching things up logically and perfectly equate to the little dog nipping at the heels. They're the things that he's willing to say, whatever, I'm enjoying it anyway. And then here is the ace of the earth, the unlimited potential. This is the reward. This is what comes. This is what you can expect, and it's sort of got that success, earthy nature. This, maybe it means that you find, ways of doing things. Maybe it influences how you do things in the physical realm, and I'm not sure how well Jung. I mean, look, Jung is physical. Jung is the guy who built a castle in the forest for himself out of stones. He built part of it himself, clearly, but he built these things with stones, a lot of them himself. And so he was basically talking about the mind and the psyche, but he was also putting his hands on things and making things and enjoying what that did to the mind, how that brought I think it brought him closer to myth, to real forces inside humans going way back to when they lived in the forest and that kind of thing. But I think that kind of physical contact with things he considered to be deeply healthful. So that's what this is. This is the huge signifier of the physical earthy element, which could, in fact, because of what your question is, be pointing directly at Jung's ideas there. So as you learn about Jung, you'll know what I mean. There's even a film on YouTube of Jung and his stone thing. He made a stone pedestal or something that was in honor of someone or some dead people or something. But there's in the forest making things with his hands, and that's what this is hinting at. And here, 9, yet again tonight. Fire, passion, desire. Okay, so your instinct, your wand's fire instinct, is to do this combination of tarot and Jung. And this is saying, absolutely persevere, go all the way with it. Go all the way, push it through. That's what that's saying. But I think that the fascinating thing going on here is this. where it regards Jung. This enthusiastic sort of following the journey of tarot, following through Jung's writing, and just doing that with enthusiasm and not worrying. And this thing here is very Jungian symbol right here. I mean, Jung would have drawn the card this way himself, I think.
Yeah, buy even more books. That's, look, Jung made piles of stones in the forest. You can make piles of books in your living room. You're welcome, Unity. Okay, X5AIIX. Are you there? X5AIIX. X5AIIX may have departed. Destination unknown. It's kind of a late hour. What time is it? Well, it could be late. You never know where people are. Sometimes they come in and then it's like they fall over backwards, sound asleep. I think. So, well, I if AIIX is not still with us, then I'll probably get ready to wrap up. I only intended to do an hour and a half this evening. It's been kind of a busy week, which is good. But and tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow's Friday the 23rd. I don't even know. I always sort of have streaming, I want to do a stream, and then sometimes I can't because I'm, caught doing other things, as so many people are. But I'll try again tomorrow. If I can't, then I'll just be nice to do a weekend night. Maybe, Life, I know. Maybe a week, maybe I can, be nice to do it on a Saturday, actually. Then I could plan to stay up late or something and do it. I noticed some streamers, I've seen them who I think I've even seen people they really seriously looks to me like they might actually be in their pajamas really late. And I'm like, my God, how do they do that? How do they do that? Well, and of course I'm up, but it takes energy to stream, and if it's 2 a.m, my God, and you're streaming in your pajamas, and you're it's that takes a lot of coffee or something. Maybe I should try it, but I'm not in my pajamas, though. I would just be in my shirt, and I would have coffee And one thing that's really I'm going to insist upon it if I do anything late at night is cookies. Yeah, chit chat, nice. Yeah, you're right. I think you can just, you can just sort of relax. And yeah, I know. That's true. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I just feel like, I guess you can relax. Maybe I'm the only one who can't. I'm going that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a tarot, not a tarot. I'm going to do an I Ching reading tomorrow about trying to relax. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up and go sit down and try and like wind down. So great talking to everyone. Great readings tonight. And Unity, that was a really interesting development of yours, the whole Jung thing. So yeah, seriously, go for that. I think that's highly rewarding. All right, I will talk to you later.